Hi, my name is Mick, and welcome to the Main Character of the Internet podcast, where I talk about the viral moments that happen online. I feel I'm uniquely positioned to do this because I have been online, terminally so, since I was 11 years old. And so I feel it is my civic duty, if you will, to document these insane, absurd, unhinged, chaotic moments that happen on the internet so that future generations can look back and figure out exactly where we all went wrong. So, that being said, let's dive in. In this episode, I wanted to briefly talk about what in the formula of viral sensations, what makes that so. And I think personally a lot of it is can be attributed to mob mentality. So, mob mentality, which can also be called herd or hive mentality, is this sort of inclination that some humans have to be part of a large group or larger group, often neglecting their individual feelings in the process and adopting the behaviors and actions of the people around them. And so, this concept, this phenomenon is never more prevalent than it is on the internet because you see it with cancel culture. You see it with any viral moment is that people want to be part of the conversation. They want to be part of the majority thought. It's like in middle school or elementary school when you would vote on what kind of party you wanted. Oh, pizza party, ice cream party. And you would all look around to see what all your friends were voting for because you didn't want to be the odd man out, even if you wanted ice cream over pizza. It's like a survival instinct or something. Maybe it goes back to our caveman days when we had to be in groups and being in a larger group and having more numbers meant that you were more likely to survive. I don't know. It is a really strong phenomenon on the internet. And I also will say it's really fun to be a part of a mob. Like when it's a lighthearted mob. And I said that in the first episode, but when it's a lighthearted, fun time, we're all just joking, laughing, like that's the mob, that's fun. That's fun. I see why the villagers had their torches and pitchforks because it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to like go after something. But what happens on Twitter especially is that everyone starts to have to, especially like the big Twitter accounts, everyone starts to have to throw their punches and everyone has to get their hot take and their funny take and it just becomes this sensation, this whirlwind of information and tweets and words coming at you and it's hard not to jump on the train. It's hard. And so the one example of this phenomenon that I always look to describe mob mentality is the thread from John Roderick. Now, John Roderick is an American musician, and he also, I think, has some political and podcast ties to, like, he's done that. But essentially, he tweeted a novel of a tweet. He tweeted a 23 part thread on Twitter. So I'm not going to read the whole thing because we would literally be here all day. But it started with this tweet that was tweeted on January 2nd, 2021. He tweeted, "So yesterday, my daughter, she's 9 years old, was hungry and I was doing a jigsaw puzzle. So I said over my shoulder, make some baked beans. She said, how? Like all kids do when they want you to do it. So I said, open a can and put it in the pot. She brought me the can and said, open it how? With a can opener, I said, incredulous? I actually don't know if that's how you pronounce that word. She brought me the can opener and we both stared at it. I realized I'd never taught her how to use it. Most cans now have pull tops. I felt like a dope. What kind of apocalypse father doesn't teach his kids how to use a manual can opener?" So basically, the Twitter thread goes on to essentially say that he gave her the can opener and gave her the can and said, figure it out, while kind of giving her some helpful hints along the way. And it ultimately ended that it took her like hours to open this can. And so as he's relaying it through these tweets, he's using all of these adjectives and they're very lengthy and it's very overwritten to describe this experience he's having with his daughter. Like it's a teachable moment. And so he's like a LinkedIn guy. That's what I'm gathering. He's like a LinkedIn guy where they are always any like insignificant moment in their life, they're over elaborating and turning into some lesson. And if you're on LinkedIn, you know what I'm talking about. Like everything they do is just this like incredible lesson. And so in this situation, it wasn't work related. It was just this teachable moment for his child. One thing you never want to do on the internet is give parental advice, and that's not really what he did, but he did show how he used this teachable moment and what essentially led to him depriving his child of food for multiple hours. And I also like, I don't think that that's the case, but you're on the internet and you have to be really, really hyper aware of what you're posting and what the perception is going to be. And so like all of these they start out lighthearted. And this is where I say the mob mentality is fun. It was fun to shit on this guy for starving his kid for a little bit, knowing as a rational adult with critical thinking skills, knowing that he's not actually starving his kid. Like there's not some girl at his house 9-year-old girl who is like bones. It doesn't warrant the response that this Twitter thread got. Like I said, it had all of these funny tweets, all of these funny memes. I enjoyed these so much. And then as this wheel turns, it turned into, oh, no, you're problematic. So people were just making fun of him for being a dope and making this long, novel of a Twitter thread. And then it turned to, no, this guy has to go. We need to call Child Protective Services on this man. He's abusing this girl. Like, we need to help her. We got to send in the SWAT team and get her out. Like, that's literally what it turned into. And that's the internet for you. You know what? Mobs are fun until they get the torches and pitchforks. That's what I'll say. Mobs are fun until you get violent about it and you start wanting blood. And that is what the internet wants. When there is a villain to be had, the internet seeks blood. So, of course, people then turn to these hot takes that turn into Bean Dad is actually a bad parent. He's taught his daughter essential lessons. Your needs are less important than mine. I will not help you when you ask me for help. I will praise myself for denying you help. My ego is always more important than you, and I cannot be trusted. So that's the lessons that this Twitter user thinks that this dad taught his daughter. And then this other Twitter user said, almost every single disabled and neurodivergent person can tell you a story of child abuse they've experienced that is similar to the way Bean Dad abused his child. Make sure your advocacy against child abuse includes disabled and neurodivergent children. Now, at face value, I don't disagree with that tweet at all. I mean, absolutely, I think that disabled and neurodivergent children face obstacles that their parents absolutely, like, I mean, everyone's first trauma is from their parent. But what I imagine is some sort of level of projection from this user. I don't think that you can jump from this Twitter thread of him just his daughter how to open a can. Yes, it lasted a long time. Yes, if you just look at the text and don't read between the lines of anything, okay, he's deprived his daughter of food for 9 hours or however long it took her to open the can. Do we really believe that that is the case, that he really did that? I don't. Like I said, this is a cycle. So we're now at the end stage cycle of these viral moments. The end stage of this viral moment was when people went to, this is just a nail in the coffin of any Twitter user. People went through his old tweets. And I'm always surprised how often this happens to people, like pretty notable big people. I mean, we've seen hundreds have some dramatic fall because they didn't delete their tweets from when they were 15 years old that were saying just dumb things. And I think this instance is a little bit different because this is like a full-grown man, and even though the tweets were from 2012, he still was like an adult man. So it's like, you really shouldn't be tweeting this. But also, again, what surprises me, like I said, is that people don't delete their old tweets. How many times have we seen this happen? Why haven't you deleted your old tweets? Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. So he's found out that he's tweeted homophobic, anti-Semitic, I mean, super just scary things like this one, I'm going to rape you the next time I see you, bad rape, not funny rape. Alarming. And so it's quickly the cycle changes to like, oh shit, this guy, Bean Dad, is a bad guy. He's a bad guy. This was just a fun moment to make fun of this dad for having this over-embellished, long-winded story on Twitter about how he wouldn't open a can of beans for his 9-year-old. Like, we can just laugh about that. Why do we have to go all this way further And now his songs are being taken off podcast intros. He had to delete his own Twitter. That's the theme here. You delete your Twitter. He deleted his entire Twitter. And now he's no more. And he actually posted another very long-winded apology note. I mean, this guy's a writer. But I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll put it here if you want to read the whole thing. But it's basically apologizing, kind of apologizing, kind of like trying to rationalize a little bit. Old tweets, these don't reflect what I think now. I think that defense works when it's like, oh, this person was 13 years old or like 14, 15 years old when they tweeted these dumb things. Like, he was a grown man. He was a full grown adult, and like, his prefrontal cortex was developed when he tweeted those things. So that's kind of where I land on terms of when you should make someone pay for the terrible things they've done. If they were a child and a minor and they didn't have a fully developed frontal cortex, we can give them a little leeway. If they do, canceled, delete your Twitter. I never want to see his name again. But like I said, mom mentality is fun to be a part of, but that quickly online becomes this snowball of insanity. I mean, like sheer insanity, and people start projecting and making assumptions about situations, and then someone has to delete their Twitter. All right, thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another main character moment.